the chair and deputy roll over till next year, as per the same as we've done in all local authorities. I think the last thing we want is to be having any more elections at the moment. So is everybody happy with that? Fine, thank you very much. Okay, and then we go on to item 6, the capital programme update. Melanie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we've set out what the forecast spend is for this year through our capital programmes, and it's a significant year for us, particularly in terms of growth deal, and also in the LIPTIP programme, the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme. Both of these funds are due to finish this year. The rules are slightly different about the spend. Basically, the growth deal funding, we have to have spent the funding by March 21. For LIPTIP, if we're in contract by March 21, we have another 12 months to spend, but we must be spent by March 22. So slightly different arrangements for those two programmes, but you'll see some schemes that will be coming through today for your consideration that are part of that LIPTIP programme. And then obviously we've also got the TCF programme that is kicking off. So this is the first year that it will be starting, and you've got a number of schemes that will come through for TCF as well. So they were the ones that I wanted to focus on, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any questions on those.
Yeah, anybody got any questions? Alex, are you trying to say you got a question?
No, sorry, Chair.
I thought you were waving to me.
I was just shuffling my desk, sorry.
No, that's fine. No questions. Okay. Right. So we can agree that, and I've got thumbs up from a few of you. That's fine. Okay. Capital spend projects then.
Yeah, so thanks, Chair. On this one, we've got a number of schemes that are coming forward for consideration today across a number of different funding programmes. And the first one we've got to consider is mass transit and the development of a strategic outline case. So Tom Gifford is going to give us a brief introduction on this one.
Fine, thank you. Tom.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. Actually, I think Councillor Groves is on the call as well, and I think she wanted to give an introduction to the item. Councillor Groves, are you online?
Yes, she is. Did you want to say something, Kim?
I'm going to speak after Tom. So, Tom, it's your work. Would you like to introduce it?
Fabulous. Good afternoon, all on the Investment Committee. So this is an item around West Yorkshire Mass Transit, and it's really an opportunity today just to start the development of a strategic outline case, so we can move towards a decision point to approval during the next 18 months. And really, we've been working on developing proposals for West Yorkshire Mass Transit for a while now, and really this funding allows us to get into the next stage of development work necessary to bring forward a kind of a proposition which really meets the needs of the region as we recover from the COVID situation. So I don't propose to say anything more than that as an introduction, and the papers in pages 29 and 30 provide more of an overview and update. So over to you, Councillor Groves, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to pick any questions up as we go through.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Chair. I think when I first came down to WYCA 2 years ago, we were just really starting this work, and I can't outline the importance of this work and how it needs to be accelerated to make sure that we've got connectivity right across West Yorkshire. It's focused on delivering that absolutely watertight business case, so making sure that we get it absolutely right for the 4.2 billion funding that we need to be ready for. The mass transit will deliver, it will maximise economic growth, it will maximise inclusive growth, and it will maximise clean transport technology. So important for our region, for this work to continue, for us to get the business case absolutely right and identify the modes of transport that will serve West Yorkshire and the people of West Yorkshire. And I'll leave it there, Chair.
Thank you, Kim. Anybody wishing to comment on this? Are we all happy with that scheme? Thanks very much, Tom. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, the next one, Chair, is the A64 Bus Priority Park and Ride. And this is through the TCF programme. And today we're just being asked to consider the A64 Bus Priority. And Fiona Lim is going to take us through that one.
Hi, Fiona. Would you like, whenever you're ready?
Okay, thank you. Just getting to my section on the report. Sorry, I was a little bit late joining this meeting. Yeah. So this is a Transforming Cities Fund scheme in Leeds, looking at the A64 corridor, and it looks at two scheme elements that form a package. The A64 is obviously a key radial route through East Leeds, carrying both long distance traffic and local traffic into Leeds city centre. It's a very important bus corridor with high frequency services already, and there's a lot low car ownership in the surrounding communities, which means that they are quite heavily reliant on the bus services, and we need to make them as efficient as possible. The package consists of two complementary schemes. Firstly, a scheme to improve the bus infrastructure along the corridor, so improving the bus lanes, bus priority at junctions, supported by complementary measures around improving the cycling infrastructure, particularly on Crossgates Road. And then the second element of the scheme is a new park and ride site, bus park and ride site at Winmore. And the bus services that would serve the park and ride site would benefit from the bus priority. So whilst they are they're complementary of each other, they aren't necessarily dependent on each other to be brought forward. The overall package would increase bus patronage and improve service reliability, in turn reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving air quality along the corridor. It will be supporting the planned growth along the corridor with 5,000 new homes planned for the East Leeds extension. And it will support those local communities to access employment and education in Leeds. The scheme has a number of risks. Obviously, we're currently in the still in the COVID-19 situation, so we're assessing the risks and delays potentially around that situation, but that's been mitigated by learning lessons from other scheme deliveries and where we can kind of accelerate certain aspects of the scheme. There's a risk around delivery by March 2023 for the TCF funded elements, as is the case for all TCF schemes. This has been mitigated by looking at those design stages and trying to, as I say, accelerate aspects where possible. The risk around package cost increases. Obviously, the project is still at the quite early stages of development, and that's a risk for most schemes. Those costs aren't kind of being, they're not been nailed down yet. But we are, as again, learning lessons from particularly the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme, which has delivered a number of bus priority corridors and park and ride sites. So we're kind of benchmarking those costs against previous delivery. The scheme is yet to go out to public and stakeholder consultation, so we're looking to mitigate risks around objections through that and ensuring that key stakeholders are engaged throughout the design and delivery processes. There is potentially environmental considerations to take into account, and the project team is undertaking early investigation and surveys to understand what constraints there may be relating to that. And potentially the scheme will require third-party land, particularly on the park and ride site, that may require third-party land to be brought forward. The cost of the scheme is identified in the low scenario at 7 million, and that would be delivery of the bus priority elements. In the higher scenario, the cost is 23.329 million, which would include the delivery of the park and ride scheme as well. So obviously we have the low scenario secured, with a funding strategy being developed to seek funding for the higher scenario. The report suggests that the two elements might be brought together as a single business case. However, there may be risks and issues associated with bringing that forward as a single business case. So we're just working through what they may be, and it might be that actually they come forward as two independent business cases, outline business case. The outline business case is due to be completed and approved by January. That should say 2021, not 2020. We can't go back in time. So that probably just needs an update to the report. And construction is due to commence in January 22, with completion by March 2023. Although, depending on the funding scenario, the park and ride element could be delivered beyond that timescale. So the scheme has been appraised as having a strong strategic fit, and there's been a range of potential benefits that have been identified. Further work will be done to quantify those benefits, and we're also, as I mentioned, working on the funding strategy for the high scenario. Management case is relatively straightforward, and it builds on the work previously undertaken by Leeds on the other bus priority park and ride schemes through LIPTIP. Recommendations are that the combined authority, the investment committee recommends to the combined authority that the package proceeds through decision point 2, and work commences on the outline business case for both aspects, and that an indicative funding approval of 7 million is given. The future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway, which includes a delegation to the combined authority's managing director at decision point 5, as long as the scheme remains within its tolerances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. Any questions? Comments? We all agree the scheme. Thank you. Okay. The next one is the Leeds City Region Integrated Systems. Who's doing this, Melanie?
Yeah, David Gill is going to introduce this one for us.
Right. Hi, David.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay, hopefully you can all see me. Okay,
Yeah,
so integrated corporate systems, it's on page 58 in the pack of papers. The key objective of this scheme is to improve the efficiency of the finance and HR systems within the combined authority by the replacement of existing outdated legacy software systems which we've had for many years and which were brought at a very different time and indeed for a very different organisation. The current HR system is over 10 years old, and we think that the main finance system is about 20 years old. They've not had any significant investment since their original implementation. They have come to the end of their life, their technical life. The scheme seeks to procure and implement modern HR, payroll, finance and budgeting systems with ones that are efficient, flexible. They reduce the amount of duplicate data and employee time to maintain them. And they'll provide the organisation with up-to-date systems which incorporate functionality and standards of contemporary integrated software, which are commonplace in the public sector. In terms of the impact, this scheme will streamline our systems used by all our staff, and in particular it will free up staff time for those operating in our HR, finance and ICT services teams. It'll mean that we have less duplicate data, less duplicate records, and we'll have less associated admin. It will mean less overhead to maintain and support separate, outdated systems, and it will mean that there'll be less printing. It will give us greater flexibility in how they're operated. In terms of costs, the total cost is 1.5 million, of which 150k has been sought today for development costs to establish a business requirement document and produce a tender specification. In terms of the decision that we're looking for today, well, these are listed on page 60, but in summary, This project seeks to proceed through decision point 2 and work commences on a full business case. We're seeking for indicative approval to the project value of 1.5 million, and that development costs of 150k are approved, and that future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway and approval route outlined in the report, including at decision point 4 through a delegation to the Combined Authorities Managing Director following a recommendation by the Combined Authorities Portfolio Appraisal Team. This will be the subject of the scheme remaining within the tolerances outlined in the report. And I'll be very happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and has anyone got any questions? We're all supportive of the scheme then. Thank you very much. Okay. The next one is the Bradford Strategic Transport
Denise.
Model. Oh, sorry, Roger. Yeah?
I just really wanted to support this, and obviously with others haven't commented, but I think it's very important that we get as up to date as we can and prepared for a mayoral combined authority, and to have finance systems that belong to the 20th century, and perhaps not the 21st century, is something we need, and I think we've lived off borrowed time for long enough. So completely endorse this and hope that we can leap forward in terms of our support systems rather than just catch up.
Yeah, thank you for that, Roger. Okay. The next scheme is the Bradford Strategic Transport Model. Who's doing this? Is it James?
James Bennett, yeah, James.
Hi, James.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
You okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Right, I'll set off then. So, hi, yeah. The Bradford Transport Model, basically, as everyone hopefully knows, that every scheme does need some way to appraise its overall impacts, and it allows the districts to sort of look at different initiatives that they bring in. What impact will that have on, for example, traffic flows, journey speeds, etc. And then it also enables the combined authority in the assurance team to likewise review the options that are put forward and what will happen when we invest all the sums of money of the other schemes that you're discussing today. So the model really underpins for all the schemes Bradford will be bringing forward in the coming months and years, what the impact of those schemes will be. So it helps us evaluate their effectiveness. Also, the DfT does mandate the use of a model for the same purposes to see what the impact of the scheme will be. So it's quite common that each district has to replace or build a new model. In Bradford's case, it's a new citywide strategic model, which includes different elements like it will evaluate the highway side and the demand side and public transport impacts. So it's quite a thorough model for reviewing all the different impacts. I know, for example, very recently, Leeds are updating their model. I think theirs is about £1 million. They've had theirs about 10 years in place. Bradford's is coming forward at 709k. Kirklees are just going through updating their model too. So it's really, really important because it underpins all the schemes that are going to come forward in the coming years. Just one example I've got is hopefully familiar in Bradford. They're looking at the Bradford to Shipley corridor. At the moment, that's in with the DfT as an MRN bid. And the DfT has mandated and said Bradford does need to use the new model to provide the evidence for the scheme. So it's a really important piece of work. So the total cost is 709k. The combined authority has been asked to pay half of that, plus an additional £25,000 should we want to use consultants to help understand and review the different models and the modelling work that's been put forward. So our total cost that we're being asked for today is the half the model cost and the 25k for the consultancy review. So that comes to 367k. So the overall ask today in the report is that it's been brought as a programme decision point 2 as a SOC request. So we would recommend that it progresses through to the FBC plus stage. It's quite common to go to that level in the model when its model's being brought forward. It's also to an allocation of 367k towards the piece of work. And if it goes to the FBC plus stage, we've requested, in line with most FBC pluses, that it's delegated to an MD decision. So overall, that's what the paper's asking for. Sorry, I should have said the paper's on page 59 in the handout.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I think we're all right with that. Thank you. Alex, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to come in there. Thanks, James, for the presentation. Just agree with a lot of what James says. Really pleased to see it come forward. It's something we've been trying to develop for a while now, and you know, we've put a lot of infrastructure through this committee, and it's the models that underpin all that. So although it's quite a dry subject matter on the surface of it, actually to bring forward some of the things we want to do with the combined authority, we really need this model in place. So really pleased to see it's getting to this stage, and hope we can move it forward. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Roger, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, James, the numbers, if I may. You said the CA has been asked for half the scheme value of 709,000 plus 25,000, or plus half of 25,000.
It's the full 25, because it would be the CA that undertakes the consultancy work. Yeah, so it's half the model and then full 25k.
So in that respect, the paper or the summary on page 33 should say total value of combined authority funding of 379,500, if my maths are correct.
Right, I'm just getting my 709,502.
Unless my maths are right, which could be.
Right, okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Is it okay if you can just confirm that after the meeting? But yeah, on the face of it, that's right. It should be half the model cost, which is 342
plus 25,000,
yeah,
not half.
Yeah.
354,500 plus 25,000, 379,500. Sorry to be precise, but I think if we're recommending an approval amount, we need to be clear that the amount is one we recognise and thereby do support.
Yeah, sorry, am I okay to confirm the exact figure after the meeting? I just want to double check everything, but it's half the model, but the full amount of the consultant cost.
Yeah, okay. Okay, James, thank you. Melanie?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. If I could just come in. If you look at the recommendation for this one, that's on page 62, it's the second recommendation, which I believe is the correct figure here. So an indicative approval of 367 that's funded through the West Yorkshire Transport Fund, and the remainder, the 342, is funded by Bradford Council, bringing the total value to 709. So unfortunately, our summary figures were incorrect, but the recommendation as stated is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're all comfortable with that. Thank you, James, for your presentation. Are we all happy with that? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
And thank you, James. And the next one is the Leeds City Centre cycle connectivity. Who's taking this, Melanie?
This is Fiona Lim, Chair.
Hi, Fiona.
Hi, thank you. So this is, I believe, one of the first schemes to come forward at outline business case from the Transforming Cities Fund. And this scheme forms half or less than half than the Leeds City Centre package, which was made up of this cycling scheme and the larger Bishopsgate Leeds rail station frontage scheme, which will be coming forward with it in its own time quite soon, actually. So the this particular scheme focuses on improving cycle connectivity to the station and also across Leeds city centre. It effectively links up and bridges a number of gaps in the existing cycle network in the city centre, and it will be building on previous delivery through the City Connect programme and also the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme. So it's a little bit of a bitty scheme, but it actually will form a much more kind of connected and full network across Leeds city centre. Its components, there's 6 component parts to it. The first one is improving the linkage from Kirkstall Road to Wellington Street. In the south of the city centre, sorry, the Southern Gateway, Neville Street and Bishopsgate Street, and so that will connect into the Bishopsgate project that's being developed in parallel. There's an Eastern Gateway, which is Lady Lane, Templar Street and Bridge Street. In the south of the city centre, Blackball Street and Crown Point Road, so connecting through to those colleges and providing that connectivity into the city centre there. There's a connection through to Holbeck, so picking up those kind of more areas of deprivation. I can't get my words out. And then there's a connection through to the Dewsbury Road corridor through Kidacre Street and Leithley Road, and that'll build upon the City Connect Dewsbury Road corridor scheme. So the plan is to provide high quality routes and coherent cycle links, particularly focusing on those kind of areas of growth and linking through to kind of more deprived communities. It will support mode shift from car to cycle, which will in turn have a positive impact on carbon emissions in Leeds. And the scheme cost totals 7.81 million, which will be wholly funded from the Transforming Cities programme. One of the key aspects of this particular project is that it has quite a lot of, as you're probably all aware, there's a lot going on in Leeds City Centre now and in the future. So there's a lot of work being done to understand how this scheme can be brought forward in that context, and working across the different teams that are working in Leeds City Centre, which is all being coordinated by the Leeds City Centre Programme Board. Another key aspect that is being considered at this time is the response to the COVID-19 emergency and starting to try and bring forward schemes on a potentially on a temporary basis to kind of have a proof of concept, but also enable people to make the kind of start to realise some of the benefits early on in the scheme. So the scheme promoter is wanting to implement a number of these schemes on a trial basis using light segregation wands. You may have seen it, some in Kirkstall Road. And we do see this as a temporary measure, but it will help to build the case for the longer term investment of the scheme. And we can use the monitoring of that trial to understand what the potential uplift will be through the more permanent scheme. So they have identified £600,000 worth of temporary measures that they would want to draw down at this time to support the business case development. But that would form within the entire 7.81 project costs. So in the longer term, the scheme output would be 7 kilometres of high quality cycling provision, including within that 3.2 kilometres of segregated cycle infrastructure. And it will, as I say, kind of provide that comprehensive network across the city, a link into growth areas across Leeds City Centre and improving access to planned housing sites and employment sites. They anticipate that there'll be approximately 70% uplift in cycling on the routes being implemented, and that's based upon previous delivery and previous outcomes that we've seen from similar schemes. They've assessed the value for money as having a benefit to cost ratio of 3.89 to 1, which corresponds to high value for money when assessed against the DFT's value for money criteria. The scheme will support inclusive growth as it is delivering a sustainable and and affordable transport, improving health and supporting the reduction in carbon emissions. As with all projects, there are a number of risks to consider. Sorry, lost my... The risks to consider are environmental, so working within the city centre, there's likely to be utilities, potentially contaminated land, and the teams are undertaking surveys to understand what these constraints might be. Cost escalation and potential kind of contractual delays, and leads are progressing the procurement of this project early, and they're trying to engage with contractors to understand if there is any cost assumptions that they need to take into consideration in the next stages. The scheme will require traffic regulation orders, traffic management, and there may be requirements to kind of move bus stops, etc. So the team's already started to engage with those key stakeholders, with discussions are ongoing. As I mentioned previously, the scheme will cost 7.81 million, which will come out of the 39.5 million, which was indicatively approved for the overall package. The recommendation at this time is to approve 1.085 million, of which 485,000 is for development of the full business case, up to the point of full business case plus costs, and £600,000 for those early delivery temporary schemes. This is likely to be one of the earlier schemes on site, with delivery forecast to start in November this year, and completion anticipated between December 22 and March 23. That might sound like quite a long construction period, but it is due to having to take into those complexities around working in the city centre and managing this scheme in amongst all the other schemes that are going on in that vicinity. The recommendations, therefore, are to proceed through decision point 3 and commence work on activity 5, so that's straight through to full business case with finalised costs. And that the rationale for that is that leads are already progressing that procurement of the delivery mechanism, and that the committee recommends an indicative approval of the total project cost of 7.81 million, and at this time full approval of 1.085 million to bring the total project cost approvals to 1.235 million, and that future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway, including delegation to the Combined Authorities Managing Director at decision point 5.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. Anyone ask any questions, Fiona, or any comments? Kim?
Just really to support what Fiona's been saying, I'm really pleased that Transforming City schemes are coming forward quickly, because there are barriers that are going to be really complex to navigate, and around the Southern Gateway is one that we're already trying to overcome, and so delivering these timescales, it's going to be difficult. So the sooner the better, I think, on Transforming City schemes. I know these schemes quite well because they are inner city schemes, and they serve our most deprived communities. Over 120,000 people will benefit from these cycling schemes, and there's walking schemes gone through Lip Tip as well to complement the cycling. They are in close proximity, like you say, to the city centre for walking and cycling. But not only that, they serve the education corridor that all students travel to from further afield. Some of them bring, the cycles on the train to get down to the education corridor that serves 10,000 people, and obviously the new Leeds City Centre campus. So the big schemes, and they're going to take a lot to progress, but really supportive, and hopefully we'll get that big shift in terms of people walking and cycling. And we just need to find some cycle provision, because again, that's part of the TCF and it has to be delivered.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else? Are we all happy to approve this scheme? Thank you. Thank you. The next one, Leeds seem to be on the roll. We've got the Horsforth and Cross Gates. Who's doing this one?
So I was expecting Pete Coelho to introduce this, but I'm not sure that he's on.
No, he isn't.
call.
No.
Hi, Melanie.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me
There.
okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll just run us through this one. So the Rail Accessibility Package, which is sometimes referred to as RAP, aims to deliver step-free access from the station point of entry through to the platform edge of both Crossgates and Horsforth rail stations. This scheme will build a new bridge located mid-platform, including steps, lifts at both of those stations. In terms of the impact of the scheme, Crossgates and Horsforth rail stations have been identified for improvements because the current infrastructure at both stations means that either they're not step-free access or they don't meet the technical specifications for people with reduced mobility. So they both could discourage users with mobility issues from using the stations. So the scheme seeks to provide step-free access at stations from the point of station access right through to the platform edge. This would allow passengers right through without any assistance and unlock a new route to jobs and employment for passengers at the stations. In terms of the cost of the scheme, the total scheme cost at this stage of the project is estimated at 8.3 million. This would allow beyond outline business case stage is yet to be identified for this scheme. Therefore, the decision being sought as a recommendation for IC to make to the combined authority is for approval of the outline business case only. So the scheme does not proceed beyond decision point 3 at the current time, but it would come back for approval as and when any future funding for delivery is identified. That's everything. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, can we approve the scheme? Thank you very much for that. Okay, and now we have a Calderdale scheme, which makes a nice change. So who's doing this, Melanie?
Yeah, it's Caroline Coy that's presenting this one.
Right.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The A629 Phase 1B scheme is being delivered as part of the West Yorkshire Plus Transport Fund A629 Corridor Programme. The programme has been split into 5 packages, with Phase 1B primarily delivering highway capacity enhancements and a new highway link to complement works that have already been delivered in Phase 1A. The scheme will also enable future delivery of Phase 4. The scheme will deliver improvements to the current pinch point at the Calder and Hebble junction through highway capacity enhancements, including carriageway widening, increasing the number of lanes, revising the current road network with closure of the existing A6026 Wakefield Road link, and the introduction of a new highway link between the B6122 Stainland Road and the A629. The scheme is to be wholly funded from the West Yorkshire Plus Transport Fund. The scheme is predicted to deliver significant journey time benefits to all motorised vehicles, including 15 buses per hour that actually run along that section of the corridor. The scheme also includes the provision of a new bus gate, a new northbound bus lane to enhance the public transport offer. It will also improve the walking and cycling infrastructure with revision to the cycle lanes and better pedestrian crossing facilities, which supports active travel, accessibility and connectivity. Consideration has also been for the green infrastructure, which has also been accounted for, such as planting and landscaping, as well as a new balancing pond to collect highway surface water runoff. The value for this scheme, so the value for the money assessment reflects a benefit cost ratio of 3.57 to 1, which corresponds to a high value for money when assessed against DfT's value for money criteria. The scheme also supports inclusive growth, principle of a very better quality of life by improving accessibility and connectivity to employment, education and retail for all commuters travelling along this section of the corridor, whether it be bus, car, walking or cycling. It also covers green growth and this current climate change. This project will incorporate new bus lanes, cycle, pedestrian and increased ecology habitats. Statistically, as a standalone outcome, presents a mixture of positive air quality and also improves that for the residential community. The project interventions also improve Also improve the area as well, because currently it's on the A629. There's quite a lot of traffic in that area. The clean growth, however, wholly supported the A629 Phase 4, which will also introduce further corridor bus efficiency measures, a new express bus service linking Huddersfield and Halifax, and a benchmark network of cycle routing between the two towns. The total cost of the scheme is 27.83 million, and that is only funded through the West Yorkshire Transport Fund. And there's currently no funding recommended sought at this stage, because the scheme does not require additional development costs at this stage, because it has still got some outstanding balance of 2.64 million from a 5.67 million secured through a change request back in 2018. They believe that there's sufficient funding to continue in the business case development, which is FBC plus, which is finalised costs, and that should cover any further development, procurement and land acquisition. So the decision we're looking for today is that the Combined Authorities Programme Appraisal Team recommends to the Investment Committee that the A629 Phase 1B project proceeds through decision point 4 and work commences on activity 5, full business case with finalised costs. An indicative approval to the project value of 27.83 million is given from the West Yorkshire Plus Transport Fund. Once approval has been granted and the scheme has progressed through the assurance process, a decision point 5, full business case with finalised costs. And all future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway and approval route outlined in this report. And the decision point 5 will be through delegation to the Combined Authorities Managing Director, following recommendation by the CA's Programme Appraisal Team. And again, it will be subject to stay within tolerances outlined in this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. Can we agree the report? Thanks very much, Caroline. Thank you. Thank you. The next one is the Leeds bus station. Who's doing this one?
It is, and Steve Butcher is going to present this one, Chair.
Okay, when you're ready, Steve.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. So I haven't used Zoom before, so I'm just trying to get used to that. I'm hoping you'll see me now. Okay, thank you. As Melanie said, this is a change request for Leeds bus station. It got approval for OBC in January at SLT. The scheme itself will deliver a new travel centre, new concourse and seating, new roof canopies, some solar panels to reduce the carbon footprint. And the design will also now look to incorporate bus charging points from a separate project, basically, which is ULEB, which has links to the Leeds bus station scheme. In terms of the impact, the additional funds and timescales are necessary to complete the scheme and for it to provide a gateway experience similar to other areas of the city centre. So that when people do arrive in Leeds, they have that gateway experience, such as when they go to the Leeds rail station, for example. And also it will help to improve bus patronage and improve the carbon footprint of the bus station itself. The total whole scheme costs of the scheme are £5.280 million, which includes £224,000 of ULEB funding for the bus charging points I just mentioned. So as part of the change request, our project team is seeking approval to increase the design costs from £0.750 million to £1.204 million. That's an additional funding of £454,000. And the other approval is to extend the delivery timeframe from March 2021 to March 2022. Any questions? That's very brief, I do apologise.
No, it's very good.
Why the big increase in cost?
It's basically the costs in the OBC were based on the information that was available at that moment in time. And as the design has progressed, we've got more cost certainty. That's the main reason. There's also been delays to a programme resulting from COVID-19, which will incur additional costs. We're looking at those costs at the moment.
The difference is a factor of 5, which takes some justification.
Yeah, yeah, it's gone from 750k up to 1.2. Yeah.
Melanie, are you wanting to come in?
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up briefly on the cost increases, there isn't an extension of scope here. We haven't expanded the scope in any way. We literally had an estimate at OBC that when we've worked up the detail, that the costs are going to be higher than that. So we're not trying to expand the scope here. We're just trying to deliver against the original scope, but unfortunately the costs have gone up.
Okay. Any more comments? Kim? You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, back on now. I think in terms of the bus station, it's been challenging because it's quite a small footprint that we're working on, and we will feed back. I'll take it back to Leeds in terms of building assumptions in, because I thought we had built some assumptions into this scheme. But it's really important because we've just actually, it was this committee who funded the Quarry Hill College, and the space needed within the bus station, and this scheme will open out the passenger experience within the bus station and obviously charging points. So a good scheme, it has increased.
Okay, thank you for that, Kim. Any more comments? Are we, despite the fact that it has increased, are we still happy to approve the scheme? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Steve. Signals at Leeds.
Yeah, so this is Andrew Norman that's going to take us through this one.
Yeah, okay, Andrew, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, all. So I'm going to take you through the A660 signals package, full business case plus costs. It's on page 84 in your pack. So the scheme is part of the wider programme of bus priority corridor works under the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme, otherwise known as LIPTIP. The scheme forms part of the LIPTIP bus infrastructure package, which received decision point 2 approval from the Combined Authority on the 29th of June 2017. The scheme runs from the junction of the A660 Otley Road and Sven approach to the pedestrian crossing south of North Hill Road, and it includes 3 junctions and 7 pedestrian crossings. The detail of those is in the report. The scheme will see the existing signalling systems deployed along the A660 upgraded to use microprocessor optimized vehicle actuation, or MOVA, which essentially is smart traffic signals, and that will help reduce congestion along the A660. By adapting the traffic signal timings to variations in the traffic flow, the MOVA system will also improve the coordination between traffic signals, control junctions along the corridor for general traffic, and reducing the number of stops that vehicles have to make. The timescales for the scheme are to start construction in August this year and complete in March 2021. The scheme will look to provide improved journey times along the A660 corridor by reducing congestion. There's also the potential for modal shift from cars to buses as bus journey times improve and reliability improves. And that should also improve the air quality along the corridor, as well as reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles. MOVA is documented to provide an average of 13% reduction in delay compared to conventional traffic signal techniques. There has been a scheme on the A65 using MOVA in recent years, and that has seen up to a 40% reduction in congestion at some sites post-implementation. So we're confident of the reduction that's included in the report. The scheme demonstrates high value for money as a scheme. So in terms of the costs for the scheme is to be funded from the Leeds Public Transport Investment Programme. and also from Leeds City Council Section 106 contributions. The scheme costs are at the previous development costs for the scheme at decision point 2 was 379,000, and the total scheme costs now forecast costs are 1.056 million, with the combined authorities contribution from the LITTIP programme at 733,000, and the remainder to come from the Leeds Section 106 contributions of 323,000. So today the programme appraisal team has recommended to the investment committee that the A660 signals upgrade scheme proceeds through decision point 5, work commences on activity 6, so delivery. That the full approval to the combined authorities contribution of 733,000 is given from the LITTIP fund, and the total project value of 1.056 million is noted. And that the combined authority enters into a funding agreement with Leeds City Council for expenditure of up to 733,000 from LITTIP, and any future approvals are made in accordance with the assurance pathway and approval route outlined in the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Any comments? Any questions? Are we all happy with that? Okay, thanks very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
And then the next one is the cycling and walking infrastructure plans.
Yeah, this is Ambrose White who will present this one.
Right. Hi, Ambrose, whenever you're ready. Sorry, Ambrose, we can't hear you.
Right.
We can
That's
now.
it.
Hopefully that will work. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this scheme is kind of underpinned by funding that was included in the 2017 to 22 IT block programme that was approved by the Combined Authority in April 2019. There was 600,000 approved in that programme to be included in that programme to develop cycling and walking network plans, develop schemes. Local cycling and walking infrastructure plans are known as LSWIPs, are being developed in West Yorkshire to identify and develop the future investment priorities in the region for walking and cycling. And we're developing them in line with government guidance and also in line with our commitment in the West Yorkshire devolution deal, in which we're committed to prioritise investment in walking and cycling based on our LSWIPs. We've already been carrying out work on these plans, and we've taken a phased approach. There's an LSWIP being developed in each of our 5 partner council areas, and we've completed a phase 1 piece of work this year, and the Combined Authority approved the phase 1 plans in May 2020. Phase 1 acted as a pilot, testing the government methodology, and this scheme reported today is seeking approval to undertake phase 2 of development. So in terms of the process, we're planning to bring together technical work on existing and potential demand for cycling and walking, along with stakeholder views and community insights on the issues they face and where improvements should be made. To bring that together to get future network proposals across the region and undertake feasibility work on priority schemes, which will support development of business cases. It's important to note that the improvements that are identified through this piece of work, the second phase, and the initial scheme development, including feasibility design, are being carried out ahead of funding that's available to deliver the schemes. So this is strategic development work that helps set us up for when there is future funding available, and will inform our future investment pipeline as we look towards future funding settlements and emerging funding opportunities. The programme appraisal team has recommended having appraised the scheme, and this full business case plus the scheme goes forward to commence activity 6, and that approval to spend the £600,000 of LTP funding is granted. And the appraisal summary highlights the strategic fit of the scheme, as well as the fact that this is strategic development work to develop schemes and identify the priorities. So in terms of the economic case, there's a focus on the schemes that are developed and delivered based on the work that we want to do now would have, we think, high BCRs and provide high levels of value for money based on our local and national experience of cycling and walking investments. So I'll stop there. Hopefully that's a brief enough summary, and if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Yeah. Are there any questions? No? I think you've got away with that one without any questions, Ambrose. Can we agree that? Okay, and thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you. Bye.
The next scheme is the Combined Services and Assets Database. Who's doing this, Melanie?
So Andrew Bradley
Andrew,
is going to
yeah.
take us through this one.
Okay, Andrew, when you're ready.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
So this is a little bit of a dry subject, but it's very important in terms of the work that we do. So page 93 of your papers there, this is bringing what we call COSA, which is the database and asset register that allows the Combined Authority to keep track of its on-street assets. It's improvements to that database and asset register, which we have to do now and again to keep us up to date with the things that we want to do. The key, the reason why it's particularly important at the moment is that we need to make improvements to the COSA database and system because we want to roll out this new core network program to the bus stops and the information that we provide at bus stops across Leeds as part of the Leeds Public Transport Improvement Programme. That's agreed and funded separately, but if we don't have the COSA database in the background to do the work, then we can't actually do what we need to do on the street, and we can't make the improvements that we want to make, and examples of which will be out for consultation very shortly for members of the public to see. It's quite well, if you're keen on bus stops, it's a very exciting piece of work. If you're not, hopefully it will still drive people to want to use the bus more, and it will make the bus a more attractive proposition. So this is in the background very much, but it is very important to enable this this key piece of work. Also, I think it's key to say that in terms of COVID recovery, we're looking for ways that we can enhance the bus proposition and sort of share better and clearer information for members of the public when they're considering the journeys that they want to make. It's really important that we get the data right in the background, and we're able to share that on as many channels as possible. And COSA is a key ingredient that we need to get right to be able to do that sort of thing. So the scheme is £200,000, which will be funded from the integrated transport block, the local transport plan programme within that. We have a retained supplier already, Sistra, who are ready to progress as soon as possible. The work will be completed by March 2021, and we want to get moving, and it will be managed by existing Combined Authority staff. So the recommendation to this committee is for this activity to proceed to delivery. And I think that's probably all I need to say, but if there's any questions, do fire away.
That's
Thank
fine,
you.
Andrew, thank you. Anyone got any questions? We all happy with that? Fine, thanks very much, Andrew. That's fine.
Thank you. Cheers, bye.
The next one is a Kirklees scheme. At last, you've waited a long time, Peter, for this one. So who's doing this?
Yeah, so it's just to bring to your attention, Chair, there are 3 schemes that were progressed through the delegation to the Managing Director.
Oh, yes.
And basically we have 2 Kirklees schemes. So we have the Transforming Cities Fund, Huddersfield Better Connected Stations, and we had the Corridor Improvement A62 Smart Corridor schemes. So they're both progressing in Kirklees. And then we also have a Corridor Improvement scheme, Fink Hill, for Leeds. So members will have seen those schemes before, but this is just to update you on the delegation that went through the Managing Director.
Okay, thank you. Peter, do you want to say anything?
No, just very supportive of the whole programme.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for that, Melanie. So can we agree those? Okay, thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of the schemes and the end of the meeting. Thanks everybody for the presentations. I think we seem to be, because we're not actually face to face, we seem to be a lot quicker with these meetings. But thanks very much everybody, and hope see you soon, and all keep safe. Take care.